Hey everybody, and welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're looking into something we use every day, but maybe don't think too much about
Yeah.
adjective order.
It's one of those things, we kind of know it when we see it and we know it when we hear it,
Right.
but describing the rules can get a little bit
Yeah,
tricky.
it can be tough.
Yeah.
So how about this?
Okay.
Let's just jump right in with an example.
Sounds good.
If I were to say to you, strong black Italian coffee,
Okay.
that sounds pretty natural, right?
That sounds perfect to me.
But if I were to jumble those words around and say Italian black strong coffee,
Yeah.
it just sounds a little off.
It sounds a little off.
It's not technically grammatically wrong,
Right.
but it doesn't sound quite right.
Exactly. And most native English speakers will have that reaction.
Right.
Where it's like, ooh, that doesn't sound quite right.
Yeah.
Something's a little bit weird with that.
Yeah.
Even if they can't put their finger on exactly what the rule is.
Right.
That's what we're going to try to uncover today.
Exactly.
Over this deep dive.
By the end of this, we'll be able to not only recognize what sounds right and wrong, but also articulate why and even apply it to our own communication.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Let's do it.
So where do we even begin with all of this?
Well, I think the best place to start is with a couple of simplified rules
No.
that you can kind of keep in mind as we're going through all this.
All right.
The first is opinions go first, facts go second.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if I were to say delicious Korean food,
Mm-hmm.
that sounds correct.
Yes.
But Korean delicious food just sounds a little off.
A little weird, right?
Yeah.
And that's because delicious is an opinion. Korean is a fact.
Gotcha.
So you lead with your opinions and then you follow up with the facts.
Right, perfect. What's the second rule?
The second rule is that general ideas come before specific ideas.
Okay.
So if we had an example like a long wooden table,
Mm-hmm.
long is a general description.
Right.
Lots of things can be long. But wooden is a more specific description.
Okay.
It's a specific material.
So we start with a general idea and then we narrow it down.
Exactly.
Perfect.
You got it.
So opinion before fact and then general before specific.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That'll get you pretty far with adjective order.
Okay. But I have a feeling that it's about to get a little bit more complicated than that.
Well, yeah. There's a more complete rule,
Okay.
but it's one of those things that it's good to be aware of.
Uh-huh.
But I wouldn't worry too much about memorizing it or getting it exactly right all the time.
Okay.
So the more complete rule goes opinion size, age, shape, color, origin, material, purpose.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So if I were to say a beautiful, long, new, rectangular red Italian silk evening scarf,
That would be
would that be correct?
perfect.
Okay.
We got it.
So we've got opinion,
Yeah.
beautiful size, long age, new shape, rectangular color, red origin, Italian material, silk, and then purpose evening scarf. All right, but thankfully we don't use that many adjectives that often.
Exactly. And even native English speakers will sometimes,
Huh?
fudge the rules a little bit here or there.
Right.
Or maybe
To create an effect.
to create an effect. Exactly.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
it's good to be aware of, but don't stress too much about it.
So if even native speakers don't always follow the rules exactly, how do we know what sounds right?
Well, that's where you kind of have to develop an ear for the language.
Right.
The more you listen to English and the more you read English,
Uh-huh.
the more you'll start to develop an intuitive sense of
Right.
what sounds natural and what sounds a little off.
And so it's almost like any skill then.
Yeah.
Like we learn the basics and then we just kind of get better with practice.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So we need to trust our ear, but then also just continue to listen to other people speaking
Mm-hmm.
to improve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And pay attention to it,
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things that, like I was saying, we instinctively know it.
Uh-huh.
So just start paying attention to it when you're reading, when you're listening to something,
Yeah.
and you'll start to notice it more and more.
So it's like if you're trying to get better at noticing something,
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know, if you're a bird watcher and you're trying to get
Right.
better at recognizing different types of birds,
Yeah,
the more you go out and look for them and see them,
exactly.
the easier it will be to recognize them when you're just out and about.
Totally.
So same kind of thing with adjective order.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned reading and listening.
Yeah.
Where are some good places that we can go to practice this?
Well, I think anywhere that you're consuming content is a good place to practice.
Okay.
So whether that's books, articles, even like advertisements, like billboards or something,
Right.
just start paying attention to how those descriptive words are used.
Uh-huh.
And you'll start to develop that sense of like, okay, this sounds good. This sounds a little weird.
So even like if you see a billboard and you see a string of adjectives,
Mm-hmm.
just think about it for a second.
Yeah.
Like, would it sound better if they were in a different order?
Totally. And the more you do that, the more you'll start to see those patterns and be like, oh, okay, that's why they put that one first.
Yeah.
That's why they ordered it that way.
So it's not just about becoming a better writer or speaker,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also becoming a better consumer of language.
Yeah, exactly. And like you were saying with the bird watching example,
Right.
you'll start to see those patterns and you'll be like, oh, okay, that's why they did that.
Yeah.
That was a conscious choice that the writer made.
It's like a superpower.
Totally.
You're like, I know the secrets of the language.
Yeah.
All right. This all seems very theoretical.
Okay.
Can we maybe get into a few real-world examples of how understanding adjective order can actually help us communicate better?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So like imagine you're writing a product description
Sure.
for like a new tech gadget. You could say, this is a revolutionary, sleek new device.
Okay.
Or you could flip it around and say, this is a new, sleek, revolutionary device.
And I feel like putting revolutionary first emphasizes how innovative it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You lead with the most important information,
Right.
which in that case would be that it's revolutionary.
So even if it's just subtle changes in the order,
Yeah.
it can make a big impact on what you're trying to communicate.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to pay attention to these details.
So what if we try a couple more examples
Yeah, let's do it.
to kind of get a better feel for this?
Okay, how about this one? Imagine we're describing a painting,
Okay.
and it's a beautiful antique French oil painting.
Okay, so I'm going to go with beautiful antique French oil painting.
Perfect.
Did I get it?
You nailed it.
Okay.
So you started with the opinion beautiful,
Right.
and then you move from the broader category antique to the more specific French
Yeah.
to the even more specific oil painting.
Cool.
So yeah, you got it.
That actually feels very natural now that we're talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my brain just kind of does that automatically now.
Exactly, and that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
It's to get to the point where you don't even have to think about it.
So I guess the question is,
Yeah.
does this apply to every language?
That's a great question, and the answer is no.
Okay.
Not every language follows these same rules for adjective order.
So I guess this is one of those times where,
Yeah.
we're talking about English specifically.
Yeah,
These rules work for English,
right.
but if you're learning another language,
Mm-hmm.
you might have to learn completely different rules.
Exactly. Every language has its own unique set of rules.
This is really making me appreciate language even more
Yeah.
than I did before.
Me too. It's fascinating, right?
It is.
Like all these little details that we don't even think about,
Yeah.
but they make such a big difference.
Yeah. And now I feel like I'm seeing adjective order everywhere,
Uh-huh.
like in everything I read and hear.
I know. It's like you can't unsee it now
Right.
once you start paying attention to it.
And it's not just adjective order.
Yeah.
It's like I'm paying attention to all these different things
Right.
that I didn't even realize were happening.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
like we're learning the matrix.
The matrix of language.
Exactly.
I love it. It's amazing, right?
It really is. So
Yeah,
I think we've learned a lot here.
we have.
Let's just do a quick little recap
Okay.
for our listeners to kind of make sure they're walking away with the key takeaways
Sounds good.
about adjective order.
All right, so first things first.
Yeah.
Remember those two simplified rules we talked about at the beginning?
Okay.
Opinions before facts,
Yeah.
general before specific.
Got it.
Those will get you pretty far in most situations.
Okay. And then that big long list of,
Yeah,
opinion, size, age, shape, color, origin, material, purpose.
that's right.
It's good to be aware of it,
Yeah,
but we don't need to memorize that.
exactly. And even native speakers don't always follow it to the letter.
So really the key takeaway here is to just continue to practice.
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention to it when you're consuming content
Yeah,
and trust your ear.
absolutely.
So how can our listeners apply this new knowledge to their everyday lives?
Well, think about all the different ways we use language.
Yeah.
Writing emails, crafting social media posts,
Mm-hmm.
having conversations, even just appreciating a good book or a movie.
Right.
Understanding adjective order can make all of those interactions
Mhm.
more impactful and more effective.
It's like we're giving our listeners a superpower.
Totally.
They're going to be communicating so much better now.
And not only that, but it can also make them more discerning consumers of language.
Right.
They'll start to pick up on those subtle nuances and understand how those word choices are shaping their perceptions.
Yeah. As always, we like to end these deep dives
Yes.
with a little something for our listeners to ponder,
Right.
to take with them on their language journey.
Okay, well, here's one. How might this awareness of adjective order change the way you experience descriptions in the world around you.
So like if you're reading a book or watching a movie or just having a conversation with someone,
Yeah.
are you going to notice this more?
Right. And are you going to maybe interpret what they're saying a little bit differently?
Right, because you're paying attention to why they put those adjectives in that order.
Exactly.
Very cool.
It's fun. Right.
It is fun. Well, on that note,
Yeah.
we're going to wrap up this deep dive
Okay.
into adjective order. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time.